Welcome back. You're watching NewsX. I'm Uday Pratap Singh. Our big focus this hour, an all-party delegation of Indian parliamentarians led by Congress MP Shashi Tharoor visited the 9/11 memorial in the United States and paid homage to victims of the terror attacks. Also expressed solidarity and underlined the fact that the world has to be united in the fight against the shared problem of terrorism. 9/11 attacks in 2001 had shaken the world. Nearly 3,000 people had died and thousands were injured when 3 planes hijacked by terrorists had crashed into the Twin Towers of the World Trade Center and the Pentagon. Tharoor said the visit to the 9/11 memorial was in the spirit of solidarity and was a very moving moment for the delegation. But it was also meant to send out a message that India was presenting its stance against terrorism in a country that is still bearing the scars of a savage terror attack that took place in 2001. Let's in fact listen in to what Shashi Tharoor said there in New York.
Conventional means they're willing to get it through terrorism. That is not acceptable to us, and that's really the message that we are here to give all of us, all of you in this country and elsewhere. We are determined now that there's got to be a new bottom line to this. We have tried everything: international dossiers, complaints to sanctions committee, diplomacy, even this joint investigation attempt. Everything has been tried. Pakistan has remained in denial. There has been absolutely no conviction, no serious criminal prosecution, no attempt to dismantle the terror infrastructure in that country, and the persistence of safe havens. So from our point of view, this is it. You do this, you're going to get this back. And we have demonstrated with this operation that we can do it with a degree of precision and with a degree of restraint that the world, we hope, will understand. We have a right to self-defense. We've exercised that right. We have not done so irresponsibly.
Ambassador Bhashwati Mukherjee, former diplomat, is joining us live. Major General Rajan Kochar, defense expert, joins us live as well. Rabinder Sachdev, foreign affairs expert, also joins the broadcast. Gautam Mukherjee, senior journalist, is with us as well. Let me make a start with you first, Ambassador Mukherjee. What do you make of these, pictures coming in from the 9/11 memorial, this decision by the Indian delegation to visit the 9/11 memorial in New York, and what it really says about the message that we are sending out, and also the message that the world should imbibe as well, particularly the United States as well?
I would like to congratulate Shashi Tharoor and members of his delegation who went to pay homage to the 9/11 site, which is very painful, and which really reminds the world about the heights, or the depths, I should say, to which international terrorism can descend. It also is a powerful reminder, as Mr. Shashi Tharoor said, that India and United States have both suffered enormous losses from international terrorism. In fact, it was when 9/11 happened, Uday, that the West accepted that the excesses to which India has suffered prior to 9/11 from Pakistan-based terrorism emanating from Pakistan, within Pakistan's borders, can also happen to the West. It was for the first time that the West understood what this terrorism means, how it can shackle a democracy, how it can result in individual liberties being curtailed so as to save the nation from further attacks. That is the first time that they understood. And for Mr. Shashi Tharoor and his delegation to go there at the beginning of the visit to pay homage and to link the 9/11 attack with what happened in Pahalgam and earlier is a very powerful message. It's powerful messaging. And it's not a message that the American administration can deny. It is not an issue that can be just wished away the way President Trump tried to do by claiming first a ceasefire, then mediation in a neutral venue, etc. It is not. It is a powerful reminder that India is the victim. There is no other victim. India is the victim of terrorism, Pakistani-based terrorism. Pahalgam is a powerful example of how India was the victim. What happened afterwards, Operation Sindoor, was precisely similar to the way the Americans went after Osama bin Laden and finally got him in a third country. which coincidentally, and as comes as no surprise, was Pakistan. So I think that the messaging was very powerful. It was very well timed, and I'm sure that with such messaging, we would be able to carry our message so much more effectively with the American administration and thereafter to the other important countries that they are visiting, who of course are much more sympathetic to our concerns, especially Brazil, because these are old friends of India. But in the case of the US administration, this messaging was necessary because of the hyphenation they did, because of the efforts they tried to equate India with Pakistan, of the fact that they played down the fact that India was the victim, they played down the horrors of Pahalgam, and then they claimed false credit for a ceasefire and offered mediation in a third venue, neutral venue, something that we have never accepted since independence of India in 1947. Uday.
Yes, Major General Kochhar, let me quickly draw you in here. Major General Kochhar, Shashi Tharoor and his delegation visiting the 9/11 memorial. This sends out a big message. This sends out a message that India is standing with the world against terror. It's time for the world also to stand with India against terror as well. Also, the fact is, as Prime Minister Modi and others have said, the Operation Sindoor strikes also, in fact, eliminated terror infrastructure that not just, of course, pertain to Pahalgam, which is what it was intended to do, but also terror infrastructure which was connected to international attack like the London bombings and the 9/11 itself.
Yeah. Thank you, Uday, for bringing me into this discussion. The very fact that Shashi Tharoor started his visit by visiting the memorial of 9/11. In neuro-linguistic programming, we call it mirroring and building up empathy and rapport building. This is a very, very important aspect that you make the other country realize that both the countries are equally affected by terrorism. And therefore, this message, as Ambassador Mukherjee also brought out, this message was very important. A second important aspect is the person selected to deliver this message was a member of the opposition party of India. It clearly shows a selection of the right candidate for the right country, and it is a great example of India's pluralistic and federal democracy. Across party lines, the nation is united, a strong message being given to all the democracies of the world, especially the United States. And the aim was very, very clear to counter the narratives. And especially if you have been reading the Western media, what kind of Pakistani narratives were going on regarding Operation Sindoor. So I think that was also very important. And also to spread the message of peace and harmony, that we want to stay in peace, but the an unworthy neighbor of ours does not want us to remain in peace, and he wants to disturb the status quo. He clearly mentioned the word status quo, trying to make it clear to the world that we want a status quo. Pakistan again and again wants to rake up the issue of Jammu and Kashmir. He wants to disturb the harmony which is there in the state. So I think this message has gone very loud and clear. And see the type of people he'll be meeting and speaking. He'll be talking to the legislature, to the lawmakers, and to the diaspora. So all those people who form an opinion of India, especially in the United States, Shashi Tharoor would be addressing them, and no better person than him, the way he can convey a message in a manner which is very easy to understand for the people, very convincing also for the people to see the logic. And I think this very idea, I must applaud the government of India. This was a democracy coming into being, a diplomacy coming into being,
Yes.
a great example of
Yes.
democracy in diplomacy.
Absolutely. And let's hope all those outcomes are achieved. Rabinder Sachdev, come in here. Rabinder Sachdev, clearly, of course, the world must realize India's fight is not just against one country, it is against terror. We are against terror, and it's time for the world to unite in the resolve against terror as well. We are against all terrorists, of course, those who perpetrated 9/11, which is why, this gesture says a lot. Sometimes actions speak louder than words, Rabinder. What do these actions by Indian delegation say?
Thank you so much, Uday. A pleasure with such an eminent panel. I think both Ambassador Mukherjee and General Kochar have very wisely, looked at different prisms. I'll approach from maybe a slightly another prism, right? My first take on this delegation, and obviously a great entrepreneurial diplomacy, actually, I would say, creative and agile, nimble. I mean, that's to be appreciated. And the composition bipartisan, yes. However, I think the message that the delegations are carrying needs to be fine-tuned with all due respect to the English mastery of Shashi Tharoor and his communications, right? If you'll permit me, what I propose is a single one-line message. Okay, fine. We are saying that we don't want warfare. The question is, okay, India, what do you want? Let's say we are going in our delegation with US senators, congressmen, Australian, British, or whatever. The question is, India, what do you want? I think the answer should be that we want Pakistan to learn to live and let live, period. I mean, I think that's a big message. If I may, of course, there could be some nuances, but to my takeaway. And that squares with Prime Minister's message also. Because there's an apparent, gap coming out. The PM says that this is not the era of war. Again, it raises the question, what is this the era of? This is the era for Pakistan and, of course, the wider world to learn to live and let live. One. So that's the bigger, umbrella or a message, I would think, that which would perhaps hit, with all due apologies. I think it's a finer communication and more effective messaging, because we are right now talking messaging. And the question coming to our delegations would be that, okay, you're coming with the dossiers, you're giving us information. The other purpose of this delegations, I would assume, is to warn the world leaders that if Pakistan does not mend its ways, if Pakistan does not learn to live and let live, then we have our new normal, new doctrine, or doctrine which is already there, but defining it, tit for tat plus. Not only we do a tit for tat, we'll do a plus with it, right? So, and the next time Pakistan, indulges in some such activity, it could spiral up even bigger. So the world, we are forewarning you. I think that could be a second message in any case, right? As to the backgrounds. Now, the third thing is that, absolutely, we are facing one little challenge, hyphenation of Pakistan, India, thanks to Mr. Trump, which he has brought out, but we'll keep it on the sidelines for the time being. Now, the issue is 9/11 memorial. Absolutely, yes. I mean, a great, of course, it's the empathy which counts. However, we got to look at also why the world is not acting maybe as we would like them to. The world leaders, I think, probably already know. Okay, the point is, maybe it's too distant an issue for them. Especially for America, you see, radical Islam was a huge one, yes, okay. But by the time Biden came to power, the number one terror America says that it was facing then, Biden in his inauguration speech said that the number one terror we are facing is white racism. So America's, orientation in some ways goes to that, though of course they are continuing their fight against radical Islam today itself. Also, they've taken out some Al-Qaeda, right, in the Arab Peninsula, etc. Now, with the coming of Trump, sure, Islamic terror is there, and they will absolutely address it. But the number one priority for the Trump and MAGA folks is socialism and communism. They want to fight that in their country. So Islamic terror per se is not touching them, or is touching them, but it's not there on that priority list. That is another reason I think that several of the nations are not acting with as much alacrity and concern as we are. So wrapping up, these delegations are absolutely essential, entrepreneurial, great, mixed, bipartisan, great messaging they're carrying. They're carrying dossiers. In fact, I've been saying they should be carrying, also probably they are, dossiers of our catalogs of our air defense systems, which have done very well. Lead them out in the seminars, hand them over that these are our, indigenous weapons which perform so well. But
Yes.
the bigger message is that Pakistan has to learn to live and let live.
Yes. What is the messaging, Gautam Mukherjee, according to you, of these delegations, visits, of course, also, steps like Shashi Tharoor and others visiting 9/11 before actually kickstarting the formal, part of their visit, which involves meetings with the higher-ups, not just in US, but in other countries, including in South America, where they'll be going as well?
Well, I think, Uday, that the main purpose was to bring the focus back to the actual issue, which is cross-border terrorism. America, in particular, tried to turn it into a near nuclear war and how they mediated to prevent it. The fact is, our new normal involves that we will go into Pakistan and attack the terror hub as well as those who support terror, which is the Pakistani army and the government. Now, we have done so in a very short 3-day war. And in that, we have inflicted considerable damage. We have also stopped the water, or at least intend to do so, with the suspension or the abeyance of the Indus Water Treaty. Now, this is the point. So Shashi Tharoor going along to 9/11 is to bring the focus back to terrorism instead of where the Americans want to take it, which is one of the reasons why they try to achieve equivalence, hyphenation, and so on, because they're ignoring the terror aspect. And terror is what this is about. And as long as there is terror, cross-border terror imposed on India, India will retaliate and will probably retaliate stronger the next time. So it's important for us to take it all over the world, particularly to the United States, to say this is about terror and not about anything else. And we will not be intimidated by any talk of nuclear threat, because that is more or less a canard, a sort of a fear-mongering issue that has no real relevance, as we have proved by this 3-day war. So this is very important. Now, whether many of the countries, I think some of the countries, as in the UAE, have accepted it and have come out backing India against terror, and a number of them will. Whether America will remains to be seen when Tharoor and company meet the legislature and other people who make up their attitudes in the government. But what is clearly not acceptable to us is any kind of equivalence, any kind of reference to Kashmir, and any kind of taking away from the real issue at hand, which is terror. Uday.
Yes, and Ambassador Mukherjee, at the end of the day, of course, the US should remember where the perpetrator of 9/11 was found. Donald Trump must not forget where Osama bin Laden was actually found before he was eliminated by the United States itself in a strike within Pakistan. So that's something that they should remember. And that's something that perhaps this visit will also help them remember as well, in case they've forgotten. Also, in fact, through Operation Sindoor, one of the terror camps struck had other individuals there who had connections with Osama bin Laden.
Well, I'm sure, Uday, that President Trump is very well aware that international law applies equally to all states. If the United States feels it is free to go after the perpetrators of terror within the United States, that is Osama bin Laden, given shelter within Pakistan, They went in after Osama bin Laden. They did not inform the Pakistani government. They took out Osama bin Laden, and they said that they were fully justified in doing so. And I agree with the Americans. They were fully justified in doing so. Similarly, we were fully justified in doing what we did. And I do agree with Mr. Ravinder Sachdev that we have a message that goes beyond just Oxfordian English, which is A, that we have a new war doctrine as spelled out by Mr. Ravinder Sachdev and Gautam, which is that if we are attacked by terrorists across the border, we will go after them and we will take them out. Secondly, that all such acts will be in future regarded as acts of war. And three, that we will not bow to nuclear blackmail, because that this kind of nuclear blackmail is not deterrence at all. And we are not going to accept it. And the next time this happens, because make no mistake, Uday, the manner in which the Americans have bumbled and mismanaged this affair, they have actually emboldened this so-called Mullah Munir, who was rewarded for his loss in war by a colonial era title called Field Marshal, which he does not deserve at all. This Field Marshal Munir, who feels emboldened by the hyphenation of India and Pakistan and all the rest of the actions that the Americans have taken, he will definitely try to strike again. When that happens, we will, as Mr. Sachdev and Gautam have said, we will go after them, and this time we will do much more damage. And this time, I sincerely hope that we will not be taken in by false calls for ceasefires. We will do a ceasefire as and when it suits India's core national interests. We are not a banana republic, nor are we a satellite state of the United States. We will do what it takes for our citizens to live freely. And in that process, if we have to, go after these terrorists and fix them, we will do so without being intimidated by nuclear blackmail. And the Americans would do well to remember that their reputation, in fact, is very dubious. Whether in Vietnam or in Afghanistan, they have the reputation of abandoning their allies, running away when the going is hot, and leaving their collaborators to be executed by the
Mijana Kochar, I'll leave the last word to you.
That is my take on this subject. Uday.
Mijana Kochar, are you there with us?
Yeah, I'm there with you.
Sir, I said we leave the last word to you.
Okay, thank you. See, it's like this. So a strong message, I think, was required to be given to all the world at large. I'm not only talking about the United States. I'm talking about all the 33 countries, because it's going to have a cumulative effect. The second important aspect is it was very important to set the narrative right, because all these news of all the Western media, everything has to be set right. And the third important is that the world has come to know that India is a strong military power. We are the fourth largest army in the world, and we have a doctrine today that any further attacks on us will be suitably replied on to Pakistan. And the world has been forewarned. And I would like to stress upon this word, forewarned right now, that any kind of misadventure which Pakistan will indulge in will be met with a far greater response than they would actually imagine. And I think the Pakistan, this government and the Pakistan leaders and General Munir are also very closely watching these developments, because they also, I believe, intend to take out similar delegations. But I think they have lost the battle of narrative, because we are there first, bringing this in very important aspect into the knowledge of the world, because it's far too long a time when India was considered a soft power, a soft nation, I would say that. And we are no longer that. We have the soft power, we have the hard power. And if required, the hard power will be used on all those forces which are trying to weaken the country. Uday.
All right. My thanks to all of our guests for joining us on this discussion. It's time for a very short break. Stay with us.